Well, my apologies for that little time of dead airspace. One of the things that you never want to have in a podcast is dead airspace. We're having a little technical difficulty with some of the new software that we're implementing in the program right now. So I apologize for that. But let's get to today's show. The perfect Christmas gift for children or grandchildren, a 529 education plan. If you're looking for that perfect Christmas gift for a child or grandchild, how about paying for college education? Or how about paying for private K through 12 school education? Well, that is what a 529 plan is all about. And here's essentially the way that it works. You set up a 529 plan account for a child or grandchild, and you deposit funds into that account. Now what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is first, that account will grow tax deferred. What does that mean? That means you're not going to be paying tax on the money as it continues to grow while it is still in the account. 2, the account has tax-free withdrawals. As long as you're taking the money out for qualifying cost of higher education, the money will come out tax-free. 3rd, you control it. That means you determine when the money comes out. You determine where the money is going to be spent. So if you're not happy with the college selection that your child or grandchild is making, you're not obligated to utilize the funds for their benefit. 4, you can change the beneficiary. So the child that you set it up for, the grandchild that you set it up for, maybe they choose not to go to college. Well, you can choose another beneficiary on the account. And what I think is perhaps the most important to remember about the 529 plan is you can close it and take it back. So maybe the child or grandchild never goes to college, or maybe you need the funds back one day. You simply close the account, you take the money back. However, nothing in life is free, and you will have to pay taxes on the income that's been generated in the account if you close it. And there will be a 10% penalty that you have to factor into. But you do have the ability to take the money back. And for those of you who are in a situation where you have federal estate tax issues, money that you've put into a 529 plan is not part of your estate for federal estate tax purpose. Now, you can set up and name anyone as a beneficiary, a child, a grandchild, a relative, a friend, even yourself. There are no income restrictions on either you as the contributor or the beneficiary, so you don't have to worry about how much income you have or how much income the beneficiary has. And there are no limits to the number of plans you can set up. So you have 11 grandchildren. You could set one up for each grandchild if that's what you chose to do. I mentioned earlier that you can also change the beneficiary of the plan. So once you set the account up, you have the ability to change the beneficiary as long as you're going to change the beneficiary to what is considered an eligible family member. And that includes somebody who's related to that original beneficiary as either a child, descendant of a child, brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, father, mother, ancestor of either, stepfather, stepmother, son or daughter of a brother or sister, a brother or sister of the father or mother, a son-in-law, daughter-in-law, father-in-law, etc., etc., and spouses of those individuals, and first cousins of the beneficiary. So it's a very lengthy list of other individuals that you can name as the beneficiary if you want to change the beneficiary on that account. Now, what about the contributions that you make? Well, there's no federal gift tax on contributions you make up to that magic $15,000 per year, which is the amount that you can contribute now without having to worry about gift tax, or give to somebody without worrying about gift tax. Or if you're married, you can double that and you can provide a gift of up to $30,000. So $15,000 annual contribution if you're single, $30,000 annual contribution if you're a married couple. But you can also accelerate your gifting with a lump sum gift of $75,000 in 2019 if you're a single filer, or $150,000 if you're married. Basically, you can front load 5 years worth of gifts into the 529 plan. Now that means you can't make gifts for the next 4 years because you've already made your annual gifts, but it is the ability to take and front load a plan. So if you have some significant dollars available to you now, you might consider the possibility of front-loading plan. Think about this. You've got a 1-month-old child or a 1-month-old grandchild. What if you had the ability to suddenly today stick away $75,000 to $150,000 into a 529 plan? What is that plan going to be worth when they actually get to be college age? Earnings, they're not subject to either federal or Michigan tax as long as they're going to be used for qualified education expenses, and that includes things such as tuitions, fees, books, room and board, computers, related technology such as internet access fees, software, printers, those sorts of expenses. As long as the money is taken out and used for those expenses, you will never pay a tax on that money. Of course, keep in mind, 529 plan contributions aren't deductible on your tax return, but you're still getting the benefit because the account can grow, and as long as the money's taken out for tax-free or for qualifying cost of education, it does come out tax-free. Again, non-qualified withdrawals. If you take the money out for something other than qualified cost of higher education, you are going to be subject to that 10% penalty in addition to taxes that are going to be owed on the earnings. Now, one great thing about a 529 plan, if you do some long-term planning, your 529 plan can be owned by a trust. So if you have a revocable living trust or you're thinking about creating a revocable living trust, you might consider whether or not the 529 plan that you're creating should be owned by your trust. And we could have an entire episode on how you could use a trust in conjunction with a 529 plan to create effectively a multi-generational educational opportunity with significant tax savings. If you have questions about that, give me a shout and we can talk about that sometime. Or maybe at some point I'll make that a topic of a future program. As I noted, you still control the distribution, so you're in charge. Even though you set the account up for a beneficiary, the beneficiary isn't in charge of the account. You are in charge. Now, of course, there are going to be limitations. There are maximum account balances. That means currently in 2019, the maximum account balance is $235,000 per beneficiary. So, you think you might like one? Where can you get them? Well, you can get a 529. 529 just refers to the U.S. Code section, the section of the tax code that recognizes the plans. But there are 529 plans available in every state. So the fact that you live in Michigan doesn't mean that you are limited to having to buy a Michigan authorized 529 plan. So you need to talk to your financial advisor and explore the various options. Now, different states likely have different investment options. If you were to look at the Michigan 529 plan, which is at www.misaves.com, You can see what the investment options that are provided there. It is a plan that's going to be administered in Michigan by TIAA. Perhaps if you work for the state of Michigan or in education for the state of Michigan, you're already familiar with that particular company. There is an advantage, though, that if you do buy the Michigan plan, because Michigan will give you an income tax deduction. Contributions are deductible for Michigan income tax purposes up to $5,000 a year for a single income tax return or $10,000 for a joint return. So there is some incentive that the state of Michigan is providing you to set up that account. It's pretty easy to set up. You can do the Michigan plan all online. Just go to www.misaves.com and you can set up an account online. You simply have to fund the account by December 31st in order for it to be a contribution for 2019. Now, you might be familiar with the MET program, which is not the same program as the 529 plan, the MI Saves plan, but the MET program is essentially a 529 prepaid tuition plan. So it's similar, doesn't work exactly the same, but it does have the same benefits to you. Good news. As a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed at the end of 2017, funds from a 529 plan can now be used to pay tuition for students attending private K12 schools. So you can spend up to $10,000 per year per student to help cover the cost of somebody going to K through 12. Originally, the plans were designed for college. They have been expanded to be able to be used to provide benefits K through 12. Now, you don't have the same flexibility with spending. It is limited in the K through 12 to paying tuition only. So you don't get to pay room and board, you don't get paid for computer equipment, books, etc. It can only be used for paying tuition only if it's going to be a K through 12 program. And unfortunately, it is not available for home schooling. So look at your shopping list. Take a look at those people that you still have to do shopping for by the end of the year, and at least give some consideration as to whether or not a grandchild or a child you should be providing a gift of a 529 plan to them. Tuesday with Tom has been brought to you by the estate planning attorneys at Doyle Law PC. To learn how we can help you with your estate plan or with settling a loved one's estate, please call us today at 517-323-7366. That's 517-323-7366.